Watching News at Prime, let's bring you this now. Advocate Sello Maema, who led a team of prosecutors to KwaZulu-Natal to look into allegations of systemic criminality and extrajudicial killings in the Cato Manor police unit, says the KZN Director of Public Prosecutions at the time, Advocate Shamila Batohi, failed to act. The former Northwest Director of Public Prosecutions is the first witness brought by the suspended South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Chauke, as the inquiry probes Chauke's fitness to hold office. Let's speak now to Newzroom Afrika reporter Nqobile Madlala, who has been watching that space for us. Nqobile, good evening to you. I think people listening to that introduction will be forgiven for thinking that Chauke is almost off the hook here, given that this inquiry has almost been turned on its head. It's almost as if other people are being investigated here. And I'll tell you why I'm phrasing this way. It is that this is the first witness brought by Chauke's legal team. And who does this witness implicate? First up, it is Shamila Batohi, who asked President Ramaphosa to institute a commission of inquiry to look into Chauke's fitness to hold office. Tables are completely turned. Tell us more.
Upside down indeed, Oli. I mean, if you look at the fact that the inquiry itself, like you say, it's supposed to be investigating the South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, who's currently on suspension. But that very same South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecution has had to bring in his team to bring in the witnesses in order for the inquiry to continue. Now, just to take you back a bit, the inquiry struggled for some time to try and get witnesses that can stand and continue with the testimony. And as a result, they were asking for postponement. And that's when defense came in, and this is where you see Advocate Tembeka Nqukaitobi, CSC, who also said that Chauke was saying no. He needs to find a solution, and we saw the substantive application that took place, and therefore now the evidence is leading, the defense is now leading evidence.
So just to stop you there for a moment, who struggled to get witnesses to testify, I guess, backing the story of the prosecution's management, because they would have instituted this inquiry against Chauke? Are you saying that it is Shamila Batohi's team that struggled to get witnesses to come and corroborate their story?
Essentially, Kole, how it works is that Advocate Shamila Batohi comes in as a complainant.
Right.
She also comes in as a witness, a key witness that is. So her walking out means the evidence leaders who are on a fact-finding mission for the inquiry that was constituted because of the letter Advocate Shamila Batohi, as well as the paperwork she provided to the president to say that there must be an investigation to Chauke, and this inquiry was then created. Now, because of her walking out, it meant that there was a vacuum. It means the evidence leaders from the inquiry who are on this fact-finding mission now needs to rush everyone that needs to come in. And I remember at some point they even spoke about Boysen, who said that he can only come in February, late in February. There were some of the witnesses that they were looking at, and most of the witnesses said, some of them even said they were studying, some of them said they had commitments, and it became a struggle now to secure the witnesses to come to the stand to corroborate the story or to lead the testimony. And that's when Chauke and his team came in and they said they will start bringing in some of the witnesses.
So let's then press ahead. What is Advocate Maema saying about Shamila Batohi's failure, in his words? Where did she fail? And what was her role at the time?
So he's taking us now back to 2000 and 2009. Between that term is where we had Advocate Shamila Batohi being the Director of Public Prosecutions in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, when this killings, which is what the alleged killings by the Cato Manor unit, of course, they say this is under the director, which is Major General Boysen now, and they're saying that when this was taking place, It was right at the edge of what Shamila Batohi, she was about to leave office before she went to The Hague. Now, these killings, if you look at them, they're saying that it started in about 2006, going to about 2011. Now, they are claiming, and if you look at what Maema is saying in his evidence, he's basically saying there were people that went to court, and that specific person that went to court is Nqobile. Nqobile had said that he alleged that there was a list of people that were going to be killed by the Cato Manor unit, and he alleged that he had it. And this is why he then sought legal help to interdict the police from killing him. And he said if they want to speak to him, then he's more than willing to come to the police and have a conversation. At the time, he said 5 people had been killed by the Cato Manor unit, and of course alleged a whole lot, which we understand at this point that there's been allegations that the Cato Manor unit was working with the Stanga Taxi Association to kill the Guamapumulo Taxi Association members. Now, he was saying that as a person who's part of the association in the taxi industry, I can see my life is going to be affected, so I'm willing to hand myself over to the police. Now, when he went to court, he did get that interdict, but he was killed anyways. Now, Advocate Maema saying, if NPA had acted at that time and they looked at these allegations, then Nqobile wouldn't have died and the killings would have stopped at some point.
I know that there is a particular soundbite that we ought to listen to coming out of that inquiry today. So let's take a listen to this for a moment as we wrap up the conversation.
The killings that happened, they happened in the presence of and at the hand of a team of investigators from Cato Manor.
That is correct, Chairperson.
And the witnesses to the killing would be expected to have made written statements.
That is correct, Chairperson.
And those written statements would also be taken into consideration when the inquest is made or a decision to prosecute or not to prosecute is taken.
That is correct, Chairperson.
So we shall find the statements of the witnesses. And witnesses, my focus is on the investigation team of the witnesses.
Yes.
At the scene.
Yes.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You were asked about the head of IPID at the time. Who was the head of the DPP's office in KZN at the time?
It was Advocate Simpiwe Mloto.
Well, he was the head in 2012, according to the evidence here. But the event was taking place in 2008.
In 2008, the head was... It was Advocate Shamila Batohi.
Yes. So is she the person who should have, in fact, taken steps at the time of the killing?
Advocate Shamila Batohi and her staff were the people who were supposed to have ensured that the matters are dealt with appropriately.
Yes. And is that the office you are saying failed in its duty?
That is correct, Chairperson.
Yes. Now, the next section of the letter does not include direct...
Your pardon, Counsel, I'm sorry to interpose, I'm sorry. And after Advocate Batohi had left to The Hague, she was succeeded by Advocate Mlojo.
Advocate Simpiwe Mlojo.
Yes.
Chairperson. Yes.
Did Advocate Mlojo was he acting through from 2009 to 2012?
That is correct, Chairperson.
So if there is anyone who should have taken action, it would have been Advocate Batohi first, and then she leaves at the end of 2009, and then secondly, it should have been Advocate Mlojo.
That is correct, Chairperson.
Sure, Nqobile. This is weighty stuff. So a couple of questions spring up. So firstly, what evidence were they looking through there? Because then you hear the name of Advocate Shamila Batohi being brought in. Add to that the activities of the Cato Manor unit as led by General Boysen. I can't help but wonder whether he will possibly be called here to respond to what is being said, or perhaps he may have volunteered already to want to come and clarify matters, because this puts him and his team in a very bad light.
In the center of the entire conversation, Koli. In fact, what we know about him now is that he has said that he had sent in his affidavit. In fact, he was speaking to Newzroom Afrika about this. But what we also know is that in the inquiry, the evidence leaders did highlight that they will be speaking to him and that they're trying to get him to come through as to testify, really, to talk about what took place there. Yeah. So we are waiting to hear if that is going to take place. But it's important to know that now that defense, or rather Chauke's team, has started, they have to go through 10 witnesses that have to corroborate his story. They also have about, with just Advocate Maema, they've got about 900 pages of an extra to go through. They've got about 150 pages of just his affidavit. So there's a lot of work to go through. But at the same time, remember, Advocate Maema becomes very key, because not only was he team leading, he left Northwest, came to Gauteng, worked with Advocate Chauke, who was, of course, asked to assist because the then NDPP had asked Advocate Mlotshwa to step in, and that's when it didn't go well. Now you're hearing Advocate Mlotshwa as well being mentioned, and Advocate Maema saying that when they went to KZN, they had about 50 dockets that they needed to look through, and they went to 23, which they were convinced could basically be strong for the racketeering charge, which was later, of course, we know, erased.
Nqobile Madlala, thank you very much indeed for the moment. Interesting evidence coming out of the of the Nqobile inquiry. See where my head is. Thank you indeed.